The All Smiling Faces podcast is now sponsored by Tyre Spot, the Northeast's leading tyre supplier with branches across the region. Tyre Spot don't just do tyres, they cover everything from servicing to wheel alignment. They can handle every aspect of your car's maintenance. For more information, visit tyrespot.co.uk. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Always Smiling Faces podcast on the GallowgateShots YouTube channel. As you can see, if you're listening, if you're watching on YouTube, it is myself joined by Mark and Besty this week. We don't have any substitute for Decker. Decker is currently in Dublin.
This week, yep.
He loves his Guinness, that fella, like, isn't he?
It's the worst drink in the world either, as well. Like, I don't know how.
I like Guinness, right?
It's horrible.
The thing is with Guinness drinkers, like proper militant Guinness drinkers, is I think they drink Guinness so they can tell you that they're drinking Guinness.
Guinness nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's all
Guinness perverts.
It's always, it tastes so much better in Temple Bar and all that. Like this.
Got to take a photo of this pint because it's unreal.
Yeah.
Already got that off Decker this morning.
It looked like a pint of Guinness.
It did look like a
There
pint
was nothing
Guinness.
like. You could have got that pint of Guinness in a Stag's Head. You could have gotten it in Curly's probably, or what, you know what I mean? It's
and they do that thing where they tilt it a little bit and splitting the G and all that shit. Decker, man, grow up.
I used to be dead good at putting the shamrock on the top when I worked behind the bar.
All right,
You know,
okay.
you fill it so far, and yeah, I was a dab hand at that. It was great.
Yeah.
But it's just a beer. It's
Just
nice.
put the drink in the glass and drink it, man. What's the matter with you?
I think it was with Guinness. You've got to do it 2/3 wheel because it's how
What a
it
shite.
effervesces. Because you get a deep massive heat otherwise, which I know, Mark, you've already got a head start there. Like, but...
the irony of that.
You call me old all the time. It's the same thing. But it is. I think it's like, well, I'm drinking Guinness. I don't care, mate. It's a pint.
Horrible.
It's lovely though. I do like it, but I don't really drink it that much.
It's nice with a bottle of Blue Wicked in it.
Oh, what's that called again?
Blue Velvet, isn't it?
Do you have a cheeky Vimto?
No, Cheeky Vimto was
No.
port and Blue Wicked.
No, that was lush though. I used to love that. It tastes like
I used
Vimto.
to love a chicky Vimto.
It was what was the bar in Shields on Winchester Street called again? It was Porter's, then it's our beers now.
Raffles.
Evisa.
Evisa was
Avisa.
at the top, man.
That's what I mean. Next to where the restaurant was, the car park's there now, the Voyager.
Yeah.
Evisa used to do the Blue Wicket. I used to, what a treat.
Mambo's. Where Mambo's is now.
Yes,
Mambo's,
that's the beer. Yeah, it's Mambo's now. It's
In the
right
Shell garage.
No, that is.
No, it's Esu, isn't it?
That's all Mambo's. I think Mambo's it was a Greek place for a little
There's
while.
two Mambo's. Yeah, it was a Greek place.
Yeah.
For a little bit.
I
But
prefer Mambo number 5.
anyway,
There's one in Heaven as well as a Mambo's.
Is
Used to
there?
be Martha's Vineyard. Aye.
It's in the pub, isn't it?
Aye. It's the pub Martha's. Like, it's a shame that went.
Jules sends the questions through the way saying, was it a shamrock on Decker's pint or did the barman get creative?
It's a
Decker
massive
got a
knob.
picture of him and his lass on it. And that's on Instagram as well. We'll stop taking the piss out with Decker.
No, we won't. No, we'll not.
We'll come
That'll
back.
never happen.
We'll come back.
It's
to
either that or
taking
the
piss.
football. I know what I want to talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about some football. Let's get started. So, do you know what it is? I think looking at social media after the defeat v Chelsea, I think the scales are tipping a little bit in regards to questions being asked of Eddie Howe. But we know social media is not your go-to for these sort of
I was
opinions.
say it's not a
things
very
like
good
that.
barometer of things.
Our
course-
WhatsApp group's not a very good prominent. Let's be honest with you.
True,
Like,
true. But everybody's entitled to opinion, right? I don't think there's necessarily a right or a wrong when it comes to opinion based. Sometimes some people are so far Eddie Howe has to go blah 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 blah. That's wrong, right? That is wrong. But I'm trying to word this the right way where I don't sound like a dick.
Well, that's going to be hard for you.
It's a bit late in the day, but 10 years
I
in.
mean,
Do you
we've
think-
been here a while now.
Do you think Eddie Howe's job is a little bit more under pressure now than what it was a couple of weeks ago?
I think given our league standing and the run of results that we've had, even when we're getting results, performances weren't great. I think there's always going to be pressure, regardless of what club you look after. We know what's happened, today down the road.
Down
So
the
I
road,
think
that's
that-
a long road.
Down the A1, the M62, the 53.
Over in the northwest, then to be more precise. So I think, it's always the case, isn't it? Is when results aren't going as are perceived to be, going in the right direction, the pressure always ramps up on the manager. I think even from the start of the season, a couple of games in, there was noises about it. So on the back of a defeat, and I'll say it now, I don't think it was a particularly bad defeat. I just think people are, which again is a massive surprise, are massively overreacting to the situation.
Well, we're saying it's not. We didn't get what horses had it to it. Far from it from Chelsea. We did all right throughout that game. Of course, we did in certain moments. And if you're looking at the stats alone, that looks like it has been pretty even from start to finish for Newcastle and Chelsea. Yes, Chelsea finished their chances, and Newcastle struggled to do that. Just as being the repeat of this season so far. But I think more if we look at the bigger picture, Besty, if we look at the likes of the teams that we're hoping to be competing with and sticking with this season, you would throw Chelsea in there. You'd probably throw Brighton in there as well from last week. And there's two performances where, yes, performances have been better, but we still haven't got any points out of it.
Yeah, I would say Chelsea are probably a level above.
Yeah, right.
Brighton, Newcastle, I would say I would have Chelsea beneath Liverpool and Man City, but probably the best of the rest at the minute.
Yeah.
Sorry, Liverpool, Man City and Arsenal, beg pardon.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say Chelsea are
probably.
But
Chelsea's probably the where we're looking at being, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd say we are, but I mean, we're still a long way away. We had the year we finished fourth. We did okay last season. I thought sixth last season, seventh, wasn't it? We
finished seventh. We finished seventh.
I thought that was a fine, a good season for the most part. It kind of tempered a little bit by what happened the season before. But looking at Chelsea, the players they've got, the players we've got. I think, like Mark said, it's going to be weird not having two people arguing on this side of the table today, because I agree completely with Mark said. I thought it was, for the most part, a pretty good performance. If Isak squares that one to Joe Linton, stuff like that was another one. I'm sure there's another chance. If Reece James hadn't just been where the ball was landing every single time in the 6-yard box, of the game, he was superb.
There's two good clearances on it.
Yeah, there was two good clearances. If Cole Palmer hadn't played that pass, and we're looking at ifs, you know what I mean?
You can't throw that one in there.
Well, you can't
say, well, if Isak hadn't scored his goal, go on.
I've got a question for you about that pass. Was that just a hit and hope?
Nah. I don't think so. I think he's measured it. If you look at Tino's expecting the ball to go on the outside, so he moves, and that's where the space becomes. Palmer knows what he's doing. I think him and Neto have probably in the past gone because you can see Tino. At first, I blame Tino for that. We'll come to the goal later on, but I think we're playing the Brighton game. I thought would absolutely knock spots off them, just couldn't score the goal, and that's the problem. And it is a problem. It's all well and good sitting here saying, well, we're playing well but not scoring. You've got to score, and we're making mistakes at the back. I think the Brighton goal was a defensive error. Both goals yesterday were avoidable, certainly.
Especially, I think all this season, I don't think there's been a goal where we get screamer scored against you. You're meant now we could have done. We've been shite defending.
The thing is, I think every goal we've ever conceded, we've sat here and picked. Not every goal.
You can always pick a fault. Yeah,
Chelsea will be looking at the goal we scored yesterday, going, "Now, what about?" And because you look at it through those eyes, because we don't look at it from a Chelsea point of view. We're sitting here going, Tino did well, Bruno did well, Isak did well to stay on side. It's a good ball across by Harvey Bonds to play the ball. It was Hall.
Hall's first
played well. But I think that the people are panicking. My eyes were on Stokes and some of the stuff I saw in our WhatsApp group as well. People are going absolutely bananas because the league table was.
I'm surprised
because the league table was on Match of the Day and we were 11th, I think, or 12th now. Oh, we're kind of it's 9 games into the season, and we want to run of games now. We've played Brighton, who are in the top 6, Chelsea, who I've not got the league table off the top of my head. They'll be in the top 4 or 5, I guess.
I think they're 4th now, aren't they?
They've had a really good run, really good run. They're a hard team to beat. We've never done particularly well at Stamford Bridge. At 2 games in the 2010 and 2012, the CCA and the Nile Ranger games. But I think people are going.
Do you not think that's a bit where the frustration's coming from, though? When you look at now, we've dropped down to 12. Then the 2 previous games that we came up against, Brighton and Chelsea. Now those are so you've got Chelsea that's sitting 5th, you've got Brighton that's sitting 6th. Those are the 2 teams where really.
But they're teams that have always been in and around where we've been in the table.
And Chelsea in particular, Chelsea have had a far. When you look at where I've seen, we'll compare to Villa quite a bit. Like we come from 14 years of complete mismanagement before the takeover, and we're 3 years in now, but we're 3 years in and we are disappointed at not being in the top half of the Premier League. where I think it's fair to be disappointed with that. I think performances have been pretty poor for the most part. When we've played well, Everton, Brighton, Chelsea maybe did play well, but I think that a victory for Chelsea was fair on a balance in how the game was, but I don't think we were outclassed or anything like that. It was.
I agree with that. I agree.
It made a good. For the most part, a decent fist of things. We'll talk about that a bit later on.
But do you think it's not more frustrating that we've sat here before ball was kicked this season? Thought, this fixture generator has been very, very lenient to us and favourable for us. Yeah, we haven't capitalised on it at all.
Well, I mean, the first 4 or 5 games we would have been top if we'd beaten Fulham, and that was the last of those in inverted commas easy fixtures. We didn't play particularly well. But we got results, and now we're playing better. I think there's an argument to say that the last 4 or 5 games have been better than the first 3, 4, whatever.
Without points.
But it's because we're playing harder, better teams. We're not getting the points. But again, it's 8 or 9 games in the season. It's really early. I've seen someone, I forget what it was on now, someone saying the league table doesn't lie. And wait. But be that as it may, 9 games in the league table is very much in its kind of infancy.
If you're just solely looking at the league table standings without looking at the bigger picture, Mark, and looking at, yes, there's been 9 games played so far this season. It's even throughout in regards to us. You've got 9 wins. Sorry, we don't have 9
Hello.
I mean, nice. We are top of the league.
You've got 3 wins, 3 defeats, and 3 draws in there, right?
And that pretty much sums us up this season. You know, when you look at that on paper and look at how we've played and performed, it's probably about where we are, and probably where you maybe not everybody maybe expects it to be, but
do you expect us to be there
with results wise?
No, with the if you're looking at the start of the season, right, before balls kicked, 9 games in with the fixtures that we've had, are you looking at 12 thing? I expect it to be there.
That's what I'm saying. I'm looking at the results as opposed to the league table, because you don't know how anybody else is going to do in and around you. So if you look purely at, like you've just said, we've had 3 wins, 3 draws, and 3 defeats. When you look at the teams that we play, probably it about evens itself out.
Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it does where you're coming in. Yes, people say it was a relatively easy start of the season. Do you? Or is any game an easy game in the Premier League?
Well, it's not, but you'd rather play them teams than the likes of Man City, Liverpool.
But we are historically pretty slow starters in the league. We've seen that in a number of years gone by where we've got off to a slow start. We start picking up. Christmas is normally a bit dodgy. We pick up again in the new year, have a bit of a blip, and then generally finish pretty strongly.
If we go from that way of thinking, though, we're coming in November. Christmas is just around the corner. We need to have a very good November.
That's it. We're on a run now. Starting this week. The next 2 games.
I think if we do look at the league table, all right, we are sat in 12th and 12 points. And just to throw it out there, if you just throw 6 points on top of us, that puts you in the top 4, right? So it's 2 wins. If you look at the other way round, if you take 6 points off, that would take us to 17th. So you're bang in the middle, really.
Yeah. And if we're 6 points worse off, then you look at that and thinking, hold on, things are not going the way we would expect things to be going. But you look at the results that we've had, and you can look at the games that we've been in and results that we've had, and you could think probably we could have easily picked up an extra 6 points.
Easy.
So,
but is that not the frustrating thing?
I mean, that game last week, we should have absolutely, like, the performance
the game in there as well.
Exactly. So it's just the way football, falls at times. And like you look at the start of the season, we were winning games, we were getting points. People are complaining, oh, well, we're playing terribly, we're not good. Would you rather play really well, like we're having the last 2 games? Really well is maybe a push, and not get any points, or play badly and pick up points. It's ultimately that's what you're looking to do, pick up points. Yes, everybody wants to come in the middle and have brilliant performances picking up points, but you can't always do that.
Well, that's it. Last 4 games, it's now 5 that I haven't won. Fulham away, Man City at home, Everton away. Everton, who are coming into form, they've been beaten a little while, have they? Or they haven't before that. I don't know, they did the weekend.
Yeah, I think we've got is a 5 on the bounce undefeated or something like that now.
Brighton at home, which again, we're sitting here saying should, and it sounds like a bit happy to say we should have done, but Everton away.
Fulham is that only game out of that list that you've just read out there that we were bad.
And even them, their third goal was Bruno from on like 95 minutes in his own corner flag, giving the ball away. That was one where Shea missed the open goal. It's effectively an open goal. Everton away, you've got the Gordon penalty, you've got the chance he had there. Brighton, you've got Murphy getting away with Isak's shot. You've got Gordon's 2 chances, Dan Burns head at the back post. Chelsea at the weekend, you've got the one where Gordon doesn't square.
3 1-on-1s.
Every game is, I mean, there's straight away. That's something like 7 or 8 points.
We're looking at it as Newcastle point of view. You look at just look at the Chelsea game. Chelsea hit the ball at one point as well, so they've had the moments as well.
Oh yeah, did I?
So it's not just if Newcastle score their opportunities and we'll win those games, because other teams have had more than enough opportunities against us as well in those games.
I can't remember all, to be honest with
you. We're not going to remember all the top of heads, but I think. Do you think it's? I know a lot of blame and a lot of people are looking at blaming the likes of Eddie Howe for being stuck in this frame of this 4-3-3 formation that we're playing and very rarely moving away from it, and we're getting the same predictable substitutions at the same point in games as well.
See that whole substitution argument that people are having. What other substitutions do you want him to make? Who do you want him to bring on? He's looking to impact the team. You're going to look at your bench and you're going to look at that and say, who's the strongest players I've got sat on that bench? And you're going to bring on the same players.
But we've got to be honest. We sat here and criticised the likes of Steve Bruce for bringing Andy Carroll on for the last handful of minutes of the game. Eddie Howe's doing exactly the same with Osula now. Exactly the same. So why is he not getting criticism for that? Why we're saying he's only got his disposal? It's the same one as Steve Bruce would like to bring Carroll on the last.
In fairness, I was getting criticised for not using Osula at all at one point.
Yeah. So now we're giving him 4 minutes.
It's not like he's kind of that people consider him to be above any kind of scrutiny or abuse isn't the right word. My head's not working all day. For
that's
doing
just criticism, isn't it? At the end of the day.
Yeah, but Osula, you would argue that Osula and Andy Carroll aren't the same type of player. When Carroll came on. And even if Carroll did nothing, it still upset defenders because they were like, "Oh, Andy Carroll, now we've got to." And you could see they got unsettled, and we did kind of play it with when he's head and when he's head. Osula he's a big boy, but he's not quite that kind of player.
Yeah, he's not elbows like.
I don't really know what kind of player he is. Yes,
exactly.
To be honest with you, I would like to see more of him. Maybe we'll see him a bit on Wednesday night in the League Cup match. Isak, I can't work out if Isak is just a bit rusty. He needs to kind of get his touch back a little bit. He was certainly better against Chelsea than against Brighton. I thought, but his decision making was at times hideous.
Seems like sometimes his second touch seems like a tackle at the minute.
Yeah,
which and something we'll give him loads of credit for previous seasons.
I thought when he went down at one point in the first half, I thought, oh no, it's his foot again, because I got the right in the side of his foot, and I thought that's no broken toe in it. But he got up. But I wonder if could the fact that it was a broken toe be he's a little bit nervous? Maybe he's still feeling it a little bit. You never know. But I will say with Isak, if I can jump ahead a little bit, Kris. After the goal and after the one that he should have squared, he just seemed to be totally emotionless both times. The goal, I don't know if he thought he was offside, maybe, but there was no real kind of. But there again, having said that,
if we're gonna play devil's advocate here, right? Do you think what happened in the summer? There's been a lot of off-field disruption. Do you think because Newcastle was scrambling to sell players at one point? Anthony Gordon, we're looking at selling him. People won't admit it, but we're looking at selling Anthony Gordon and shipping him off to Liverpool. Isak, we didn't know what was going to happen with him. We didn't know if he was staying, if he was going. Same with Bruno. Obviously, the captaincy changing in the football club as well. The issue with PSR. Anderson sold last minute. Minty sold last minute. I know he wasn't part of the squad, blah, 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 before people would jump in. Stavely leaving as well. There was a lot of crap going on in the summer. So has that just affected everything?
Absolutely. Like, I cannot understand why we would make so many significant changes so late into the summer.
Mark wanted to make more as well, though.
It's crazy, and like it completely has put on the back foot. We know that the whole situation. Again, there's a lot of noise being put of like Eddie Howe this, Eddie Howe that. Top and bottom of it is we did not strengthen in the summer. We did not strengthen in the last transfer window. So a lot of the problems are stemming back to that situation where we're having to make the same substitutions. We're having to play the same players. We're having to play the same formations because we don't have as many options there available to us to be able to make the changes. You're talking about Chelsea kind of progressing and now getting ahead of us and being there. They've spent something like £1.5 billion.
Yeah, it's been a ridiculous amount of money that was spent, but
because they've balanced the books by telling the women's team themselves.
But I don't think we can ignore the fact that we did have 80 million there to spend on Mark Gahey, which
but
why is that not being shifted onto something else on the field?
The point that I was getting to was the fact that we've made all of these off-field changes around the ownership model. Obviously, we brought in the new sporting director or director of football, whatever he is, into there, and the position of him then saying he was taking a bit of a back seat because he came in so late.
And there were still rumors going on towards the end of the pre-season as to what his role was and if he was going to be impacting anything Eddie Howe did.
Yeah.
Hence why there was discussions and Eddie Howe linked with the England job, because he hadn't came out and said, I'm committed to this. He said there was a lot of unanswered questions or something daft like that. He said, Eddie Howe, wasn't it? And
it was right at the end of
something like that in one of the pre-season games, if I remember right. There was a lot
I think that a lot of that was because they hadn't gotten around the table and had a conversation at that point around how things were going to work and stuff like that. And obviously, that's when they came back into the country. The first thing they did was all get together and have those conversations. But I think that the summer has been a massive disruption to our on the field activity. Just from a fact of not being able to strengthen the whole model of who's looking after the club, how it's working behind the scenes and stuff like that. It's going to impact on them. That we all know the changes that's happened. Trippier being stripped of the captaincy, in and out of the team.
The more I see that, the more I'm questioning that,
I questioned it from for a fact, I sat here and said, there's something not right there.
Well, I don't think you said there was something not right. I think you just didn't believe it.
Yeah,
that's what I mean, because I didn't believe it, because it even now, and more people can see it, it makes absolutely zero sense. It totally smacks of you just giving the captaincy to Bruno to keep him sweet and keep him happy.
Is that not a little bit to do with Trippier's alleged indiscretions as well?
Stuff.
How does that make him any less of a captain?
Well, if you're role modeling, maybe he's formed towards the end of last
undoubtedly,
year.
He had a spell.
That could be considered a distraction. Yeah, a distraction maybe, and he's kind of taking his eye off the ball a little bit. And Howe's thought, well, I need my captain to be like to just have the club on his mind. I don't know if that's the case or not. Devil's advocate, that was for me. Do you think, though, going back to PSR, and I don't think they do particularly, it feels like that first transfer window that we had, the Dan Burn, Bruno, and actually the Isak and Gordon windows as well, it feels like they've really haven't recovered from those yet. We haven't.
Absolutely haven't.
Something that we've always been poor at, or certainly the last 10 years or so, and we don't seem to be any better at selling players. Like, you look at the players you're not going to get much money for Jeff Hendrick, Isaac Hayden, squad players,
like them
Ryan Fraser, but I think a long time ago, I remember hearing that the contracts they were on, other clubs are going, we can't pay that. We can't afford to do that. So when they've
Henrik was obviously because he was a free transfer at the time, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right. He was a free agent. Yeah,
and Lloyd Kelly's in the same situation because there's people moaning about how much he's getting paid a week. The fact is, he hasn't had a transfer fee. He hasn't had a signing-on fee.
Yeah, it evens itself out.
It makes sense.
He's Lloyd Kelly.
He's like
couple of appearances,
couple of subs appearances. Again, he'll probably be one that comes back into the team on Wednesday as well. But there is a whole host of stuff going on in the background, which we aren't party to. We don't know, but you can see that it would have an effect. You don't know that it is, but you would anticipate it is. Is that then, leading us into having some of the situations where there doesn't seem to be that, I don't know, whether it's clicking right on the training field, on the pitch, because there's so many players just look off the boil.
I think moving away from Eddie Howe and the coaching area and what happened in the summer to a certain degree, I think we'll have to look at some of the key players as well here, and some of the star players, because Bruno's not been up to speed this season.
He's saying that for the last 3-4 weeks.
Isak hasn't, and Gordon's had a very tough start of the season. Yes, the last couple of games he has looked better, but obviously missed the Chelsea game.
I think Gordon's been excellent last few weeks. He's just kind of
looked much better.
End product.
It's just, you've got to look at those as well, and they've got to take some responsibility.
100%.
Yeah, I'd say so as well. And not just the key. All of them. I can't think of anyone. You could probably count on one hand the amount of players, like you said, who had a really good start of the season. I think Lewis Hall has been up and down, but he's looking far better recently.
He's improving each week.
Yeah,
Lewis Hall.
He seems to grow into games. He seems to start games a little bit kind of You think, oh God, but then he does well with it. Tino, I think Tino's been really hit and miss. As I say, at first I thought he was at fault for, not at fault, partly at fault for Chelsea's first goal.
He gets caught flat-footed, doesn't he?
But then he's the one that basically starts our goal as well.
Does really well.
He comes from right back,
yeah.
goes through the midfield, ends up on the left wing. It's all on him. That
it was a little bit like the goal Mickey scored against Man U in the cup last year. But yeah, there's not. You look through the team. I think Dan Burns played really well for the most part this season.
You're not allowed to say that.
Got to qualify by saying it was the way he just kind of ambled back for their first goal.
He had a shocker against Chelsea. Like,
see, the first goal I thought was criminal. The way he was just kind of ambling back.
3 times he got people the same move.
I can't say I thought it was quite unremarkable for the rest of it. Like I can't really remember.
It was about 3 times the same move.
Yeah.
Do you know where I think we had this argument last season where we said, yeah, he's solid, but the opposition have got to put the ball in the back of the net. They got past Dan Burn a couple of times, but they never capitalised on that after that move. The first one, the one that got disallowed, I think it is. Yeah, the one that got disallowed where he gets turned in the middle of the field.
I can't remember. It's just
he does
offside.
Get, you cannot.
He does, but there's 4 players already back behind.
Well, Bruno drops into centre back, which is mental. Yeah. But like Dan Burn, it's just like we're picking up from what I said last season. Sometimes he goes towards the ball, like he just starts going on the run.
He's pressing.
Well, he's pressing the wrong. He's pressing the wrong way.
He's pressing into midfield, isn't he?
But
that's what
he gets burnt, absolutely burnt. Dan Burn gets burnt.
I'm more concerned about the way Fabian Schär decides to dive in. And
ridiculous
like
from Fabian. But that's the was that not the goal
that's the goal?
That's the goal, not the disallowed one.
No, that was the
that was a goal. That
was a goal that scored
because Neto
puts it
gets on the ball from Palmer. Schär comes across, misses them all together. And it's squared because Dan Burns left Jackson in the middle of the pitch. He's got he could go down his hands and knees and head it in.
And that's not just saying Dan Burn. I thought Fabian shot as well, Mark. Like he
should do far better.
He's committed to that challenge, and he just goes flying in. You know, for fine, well, if he doesn't make it, he's either taking the player out, which you'll probably get a yellow card unless it's.
I don't even understand why he throws himself in like that. He's getting there.
I think it's just last chance saloon. I don't think
he doesn't need to.
Fabian's not getting there. Like he's not
getting the ball, but
he's getting to the man, so
he can stand him up.
Yeah,
you can get in between him.
Get over, then take him.
I think he can stop
corner.
He can obviously close it down to a certain degree, but he's not getting that ball before.
He does not need to dive in like that.
He can get between the ball and the goal, and doing so slow him down. And give Dan Burn a chance to get back. Maybe his Hall, I forget exactly what Hall was. So I think what Schär does just exacerbates the fact that Dan Burn's kind of walking back to start with, then realizes Jackson's 5-6 yard ahead and goes, well, I better run here actually. It was just really poor by them both. Really, really poor by them both.
Are you worried about the lack of pace? I mentioned this last week, I think it was, or the week before, but I know Botman doesn't have much pace either, so we can't just say I'll be different because Botman doesn't have much pace. But for those two centre back partnership, and yes, I know they're being great at times, they really have, but they are fucking slow.
That's slow, but then does that mean that we're justified in throwing a lot of money at Mark Gay again?
I don't even know if he's slower.
He's quicker, he's more athletic than what we've got.
Well, that could have been the reason.
As a central defender, you don't necessarily need a lot of pace if you read the game.
And do you think I was reading the game well?
At times they do.
For the most part, yeah, they read the game really well.
I think you need one of them with some pace, mind.
Not so much.
Only to get yourself out of trouble. So when we are pressing high up the pitch and getting close to that halfway line, then yes, we are absolutely, a ball over the top or something between with and getting somebody running through with.
Yeah.
But there's many a team in the Premier League that's in exactly the same boat. Like you've got Spurs, Van de Ven, meant to be one of the fastest defenders. Isak sat him in his arse because the ball was played through and done.
Yeah, but is that happen repeatedly? Is that just one thing that happened at that time? But is that a repeating thing? What we're seeing?
Well, when we had the year we finished fourth, we keep on going back to that. The back four was Trippier, Schär, Botman, Dan Burn left back.
Yeah.
There's no more pace there than there is in the team now, and that was a really good solid. It's to do with, I think, the midfield, the lack of a kind of number 6, as they say. Arguably didn't have one then either. Decision making at times, but I don't think it's a regular. I don't think it's a lack of pace is particularly a problem. I think the mistakes that they made on Saturday were a bad reading. I think Schär should know. Schär's always been a bit rash.
Yeah.
His passing was a bit poor again on the weekend as well, of course. But he should know to stand Neto up there because there's no way he's played against Neto enough times. No, he's rapid. He's got a good touch on him. not much of a finisher, not much of a end product, but if you can get past you, he calls you bother.
Yeah.
Remember we played Wolves last season, and Neto got injured, didn't he? He went off with a hamstring and just recall, and he absolutely destroyed Dan Burn in that first hour, maybe or so. But didn't out with it. And I think Shea's got to know that if he just, like I said, get between Neto and the goal, make him get past you. In the time it takes to do that, Dan Burn's back. Nicholas Jackson hasn't got an open goal anymore. He's not just got to keep on a beat. Maybe Bruno gets back, maybe it's Tonali, maybe it's Lewis Hall. Just buy that extra 5-6 seconds and you've done your job. It was just rash. It was a bad decision. And that's what's cost it, basically. That and Nick Pope. I don't like to criticise keepers getting beaten than near post normally because there's more to it than that. He should save that. That's he gets a hand, and that was like Tim Crow almost, that one.
I even got a text off Matty. And Matty's Pope's biggest fan as well. And even Matty
Shuttleworth.
He said, can it just forget that? Like it
was poor, that like
it was really
Nick poor.
Pope. And I know we're saying Nick Pope, yes, he's renowned for his shot stopping, and he doesn't have to be great with his feet. When we were pushing the game towards the end and the ball comes to him and he kicks it out of touch.
Of course, we're throwing the halfway line more or less.
I think there's a few minutes left and he just boots it out. And you're thinking,
mine was one in the first half where he comes and like volleys it from like 25 yards out. And it's a wonderful. That's what you want.
Dan Burn gives him a hospital pass at one point. He absolutely slices that to the right as well. There's a couple of moments for Pope where it was a forgettable game for Nick Pope on the weekend.
But he should do far back. That second goal, it's like it's not a great shot by Cole Palmer. It's got a bit of power in it. It bounces at that time, maybe.
I think he gets. I think he thinks it's going to cross him rather than at the near post. But I think the way Cole Palmer hits it is very well. He hits clearly, keeps it down very, very low, which makes it difficult for the keeper because you've got to get right down to it. But
he's capable of saving that.
He should, yeah. If he goes down, he saves it, but he doesn't. He just kind of sticks his hand down, doesn't he?
I hate when the kind of common wisdom that keepers shouldn't get beaten in near posts. It's nonsense.
I watched it. I think it was a YouTube video not long ago, and it was about keepers getting beaten in the near post. I'm just saying it's a myth. Like people say, they shouldn't be getting beaten in the near post, but it's just as hard to save it there.
Absolute nonsense. If you're trying to go in near post, and I think of remember the goal Ryan Giggs scored against Arsenal in the semi-final where and he's the kind of, I think David Simon's a goal and just smashes it. And it kind of goes on the roof of the net as much as the near post. Yeah. But it's like, sometimes there's just nothing you can do. You can do your best. The thing is with your near post as well, and I'm going off on one here a bit, you're expecting a striker's going to go where there's loads of space. So I know, I didn't play any great.
That's what I'm saying. He's thinking he's good.
You're thinking right.
There wasn't much space around you either.
I wasn't. That's setting aside. But I would always put the weight on my right foot, thinking, right, that's where I'm going to spring off from. And then if the keeper can't, you think, he's beating us fair and square there. But Pope there, he's stood fairly central. It's not like he's been beaten high and powerful at the near post. It bounces at a bad time, and it is right on the deck when it gets to him.
Yeah,
but he should save it though. He should at least
does it.
Of course, he should.
He was punching like yesterday. Didn't notice that. He was punching the ball an awful lot yesterday.
He's been doing that.
Came out and he flapped that one.
A few weeks, hasn't he?
There was one that
completely missed it.
Yeah, there was one mine that he did kind of catch and hold on to it. That's right. But the commentators, I think, noted at one point says, he's punched everything.
He's I don't know again whether it's to do with his shoulder or not, but he just seems to have been doing that for most of this season.
He always does, mind. He has one. I remember again at Molyneux, a different game where he punches one clear, and they end up scoring.
There's time and a place to do it. It's it's not that he shouldn't be doing it, but there's times where you think, can he have caught?
Do we have to address how shite we are at set pieces?
What happens to remember the first season when Howe and Tyndall came in? Mm-hmm. Remember how adventurous we were?
I think Tyndall is supposed to be the set piece, the man behind the set piece, isn't he?
Like all sorts of little different routines and things like that. And we went through a good spell of scoring from corners and set pieces. I've got no idea why Tonali isn't taking any free kicks or corners or anything for us. Considering he takes everything for Italy, he took everything for AC Milan. He was one of the best assisters in Serie A until he's came here, and now he kind of seemed to.
Tell me.
I don't know whether it's a choice thing or he just doesn't have the confidence thing to speak up or what. It just.
Did he have a few quid himself?
There was a stat that came up mid-game, and it was 50 corners with no goals for Newcastle. That's as we're about to take a corner, so that's gone up now for the rest of the games.
50.
And do you know what it is? You go back to your centre backs and Fabian Shaw and Dan Burn. They're not small lads, Oh, Jesus Christ, hang on.
Hopefully you can't hear that.
There has been some music that started above us, so...
So it's a strange one because we do well to actually get a lot of corners from like the positions that we're playing to and how we're particularly when we're going out wide and attacking end, we'll get a lot of them, but we just don't see like the amount of times we hit the first man is just scandalous. Or it's just a lump into the middle and the keeper comes out and punches it away or claims it.
But your two centre backs that you've got, you're thinking that we should be scoring.
Not just
within that 50 corner.
Not just your centre backs. You've got Isak's big. He's decent in the air. Joe Linton's a good size. Willock when he's on the pitch is capable as well. There's a lot of players. Gordon, we've seen Gordon score some getting up and headers and stuff like that. So
Nick Pope came close on Saturday. Yesterday, sorry.
Last 2 weeks he's been up there, isn't it? But we just cannot seem to either have a bit of creativity or deliver a decent ball at the minute.
Could it be something to do with like Trippier not being in the team as much? I mean Trippier's dead ball was at times quite lamentable, like, but he did get some assists, scored a free kicks. We had a spell under Bruce maybe where we went like a season, maybe 18 months without scoring from a corner.
Pardew was the one, wasn't it?
Was it Pardew? Was that what I'm thinking of?
Wasn't it with Pardew where we hadn't scored for
that might be what I'm thinking of. I'm guessing, yeah. Because Smitty that I got used to sit down. Get a corner, so it's like point best.
Do you not feel like that now? We get a set piece, you go, oh, now it's going to happen.
We came close on that, like last week, Brighton.
What?
We thought we'd scored.
The Dan Burn one.
When? You thought it was scored? The one that hit the side net?
The whole of the Gallowgate went up because it looked like...
Gallowgate got fucking stupid at times, man.
Shoot. I agree with you there. Shoot. But I feel after the weekend, I can't really get that angry because I thought for a lot of the game we played some decent stuff. We caused them a lot of problems. Yes, there was some mistakes in there, individual performances that you've got to look at. The midfield just doesn't seem to be working. You talk about the lack of pace in defence. There's 100% a lack of pace in midfield as well.
Stick with it, Mark. Stick with the likes of the midfield because Jules did send a question in 2 seconds because I've got it. Yeah, Jules says, thoughts, lads, on the Bruno, Tonali and Joe Linton combo. Is it working? Is it a formation at fault or personnel? We mentioned this last week as well. And do you know what is? I've done a few of the predicted 11 videos this season. And when we had the opportunity to have Bruno, Tonali and Joe Linton in there, I said on that recording that is a very good midfield on paper. And you're looking at the likes of the rest of the Premier League and you're thinking, we're up there with the best midfields. When you're just looking at solely on paper, it hasn't worked and it's not clicking.
No. I think Bruno and Tonali are a bit too similar.
I think...
But they're not, but I think...
They're trying to do the same.
I don't think they're do the same playing in the same role.
Yeah. That's the issue. Maybe that's what I'm getting at more than
yeah.
And I don't know whether...
And Joe Linton's having a torrid season so far, like...
He wasn't that bad yesterday.
He's just under-hitting passes constantly, and it's getting really frustrating. Joe Linton's probably my favourite player of that full squad, and even I'm getting frustrated at times with him.
It's just like, as I say, you look at those 3 players and you think, pick your best 3 players in your midfield, and that's the 3 that you would probably pick just on name what you think they would do. But for whatever reason, I sat and said it last week. It doesn't seem to be working there, and whether or not we do need to either change the way that they sit in midfield and
as in formation change.
Maybe just the way we're set up in midfield instead of having Bruno as the pivot in the 6 with then 2 with Joe Linton and Tonali in front of him. Do we need to swap it the other way? Because we
have 2 in a pivot.
Have two sitting in front of the midfield.
Double pivot.
Because one...
I like that.
One likes to go. The problem that we're having is all 3 of them are going at one point. And that's the bit where, and people were complaining about it last week where I said, we're potentially missing Longstaff in that there was those moments because when everybody goes in midfield, Longstaff, tends to drop in. Nobody's doing that.
So is Eddie Howe doing a bit of a Southgate here? He's putting what he thinks are his best players in the wrong positions.
Yeah, I think he's...
to a certain degree.
It's hard to argue because then he brings Tonali off for Longstaff and gets criticised for that as well.
Yeah,
true. Yeah.
I think he's done either way.
But your other option, and if you can bring on Miley, who's just came back from.
He's not.
Willock came on though, didn't he?
He did.
He did.
So that's what I mean. So the only option you've got in there. Personally, I probably would have left Tonali on and took Bruno off. Again, I've said that the last couple of weeks.
A few people
is mad to say, but and again, does it then come back to how of having a bit of strength for him to say, I've got to make an impact here, and I'll take Bruno off. But he's probably looking at it thinking, well, do I take my best player off? Because in that moment of magic that he could, conjure up, which again is why I think he leaves Isak on so long, because he probably just thinks, well, he only needs one chance, or he's had more than one chance in the last few weeks.
Why is Tonali playing these games for Italy and having such an impact and such a great performance? Man of the match performances from Tonali, and he's just not for us.
I don't know enough about Italy's first team to comment, really. I don't know who he's playing with for Italy. Has he got like a regular number 6 playing alongside him, or is that where he's playing? Who's playing? It's hard to say without knowing.
He's playing in a similar position to where he's playing for us.
Yeah.
Difference is the people playing in and around him.
You don't have people stepping on his toes. I don't know what. A lot of people are arguing and saying Willock, possibly bringing Willock in that starting 11, and everybody knows I'm a fan of Willock, but I think we'll go back down on the route of Besty. You mentioned this last week. The longer a player doesn't play and out of the team, he becomes better in everybody's head.
Well, Miggy was amazing until he started playing again.
Exactly, until the Chelsea game. Yeah. But then you look at the likes of Willock, and I'm a fan of Willock. I always say that you don't realize how good of a player he is until he gets a run of games.
Yeah.
He's made a couple of substitute appearances this season, and he hasn't been great when he has came on.
I didn't look that. I mean, he scored against Forest, didn't he? The cup match. Did he get the goal really early on? We watched it here, didn't we?
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah, and then he got injured straight away. And he was back at the team again. I'm not too sure if Howe knows where to play him. I think that's a bit of a problem for Willock, because he could be a winger, but he could be an attacking midfielder, but he gets up and down, so he could be a bit of a box-to-boxer. Sean Longstaff, if you listen to the Gary Lineker, Alan Shearer podcast, said I think he kind of infers that he's one of the most underrated players at the club, Joe Willock. But it's who do you leave out for him? I mean, in hindsight, Harvey Barnes struggled yesterday, so you could say, well, we'll play Willock on the left-hand side and that. But then, is Willock someone that you want to have off the bench because of those legs? Because of the athleticism that he has? Like, he can cause loads of bother. It's a tricky one. I mean, it's one of those things where it's nice to have problems like that, such as they are, where you're saying, like, they're all good players, clearly, but it's which one's your best one, who's your most effective, instead of saying, oh, well, we've got Jeff Hendrick.
The best we've seen with Willock is when him and Joe Linton are playing as that pair on the left-hand side, isn't it?
They were great.
And they interchange with each other and swap, and they've almost got that sixth sense of, well, one of them will go and the other one will drop in behind them. And that's what we need to get. We talked about it in seasons gone by when we had it on the other side, when you had it with Bruno, Trippier and Miggy.
Yeah.
We haven't got those little also almost mini teams within our team where
the chemistry
they're doing it. Yeah, it's...
The thing is, if you play Willock there, then you're not playing Anthony Gordon.
And that's the problem. That's the problem you've got.
Unless possibly it is a formation change, then you can get Gordon somewhere alongside Isak.
Could you play Willock if you're doing a double pivot?
Willock, if you did that, you can get Willock and put him in almost as a 10. It doesn't have to be a 10, but
he can be
there. And does that then, mean that Isak's not as isolated as he has been in games gone by?
So
but then you miss out on the physicality of not having Joe Linton in the middle of the centre of pop, because Joe Willock's not going to give you that.
Is Eddie Howe being too stubborn then?
I don't know if it's a stubbornness. I think it's a hope that his best players can capture their form back. We know they're capable of it because we've seen it. They're just not delivering at the moment. That's where I think, like this week, he's talked about that he needs to start, give some tough love and having some home truths and stuff like that. And you would hope that was going on behind the scenes anyway.
And that's probably going to some of the players that were probably mentioned so far.
Yeah, that just aren't capturing even after the game on it is Sunday. I think what day it was. He talked about that there was, certain players weren't playing up to the levels that they're capable of, that they were below, the standards that were set out, but equally, focusing on our defense. Our strikers caused their defense a lot of problems as well. Like when they were pushing right up and we had space and by, that's where our goal came from.
Yeah,
I fancy we're more against those types of teams because we can use the pace of strikers. That's is the only place where we do have that pace in there. But if your defense sits deep and then you haven't, you've got your strikers, your front three with your pace, that's where it leaves you a massive, massive gap in the middle of the park and in midfield. And that's where week after week, we're getting massively, outrunning those positions.
One pass.
Yeah.
There's times I feel a bit, the criticism Howe gets up, I feel a bit sorry for him in some regards because it's down to individual things. Again, if Shea stands up, Neto, they don't get the first goal. It's if
Isak,
if Isak squares.
I'm sorry, but I have got no idea what is going through his. Well, I do. He just wants to score.
No, he looks up.
He looks across. He's like, I shouted at the telly, "You greedy bastard!" Because that is top and bottom of it. He wanted to score himself. All he had to do, and it's not the first time. All he had to do was a simple roll the ball, and there's no guarantees that Joe Linton scores.
There's
no. He hit himself in the face with it.
But it's an open goal and a tap in. Yeah, he has to pass that ball. Has to.
2 weeks in a row now.
It's more than that. There's been umpteen.
Yeah, he could have put Murphy through.
No, that wasn't Brighton, man. Was that Brighton? That was before his injury, that.
No, it was Brighton.
No, it was Brighton.
It was Brighton.
Seriously?
Yeah, he could have put Murphy in.
It's last weekend.
Do you know when he picked the ball?
He only
took about 10
touches
on the edge of the box rather than just
Murphy's flying up the outside of him. All he's going to do is roll him in.
In fairness, given that Murphy blocked his earlier shot.
True.
I can't remember that. I remember the one against, I think it might have been Spurs early in the season where he was through and didn't put Murphy through, and then Murphy put him through later on, and that was.
It was definitely.
I know I've said before I can't complain about the performance really, but I can massively complain about that.
It's those decisions, and I think
that's the difference between where we're sitting in the table now versus where we could have been.
But we're saying, I feel as if I'm just throwing bombers in here, but I'm saying like yes, we're saying we're capable of doing that and we can do that, but we're not.
Why?
Exactly. That's
the $1 million
That's why
question.
I put the title to Eddie, show even more questions.
Eddie Howe is going to be looking at that and thinking, like, what can Eddie Howe do differently in that situation? He can't impact that situation of Isak passing that ball.
No, I get that.
He cannot make Fabian Schär not dive in on that thing. So
the problem with the Isak thing is you could say, oh, well, have someone else. Isak's the only player we've got that would probably got around the keeper to start with.
Yeah.
So if he's doing that and then it's a bit of a kind of, if he's not in the team, if it's Callum Wilson, hypothetically arguing, say obviously he's not fit, he wouldn't have taken a ball around the keeper, so the chance wouldn't be there to start with. So it's a bit frustrating that he's got that far around.
On Callum Wilson.
Callum Wilson's not kind of striker, kind of have that definition of touches. Yeah, that's not me. I love Callum Wilson as well, but I don't think he in that situation would kind of do to Sanchez what.
Before we go through the questions, if anybody does have any questions, send them in. We'll go for another 15 minutes or so. At the start of the season, we did our usual thing where we fill in the envelopes. So we'll have questions in regards to where we're going to finish in the season, top goal scorer, blah, blah, blah. You must have a rough idea. So just your generic questions. Top goal scorer, most assists, player of the season, letdown of the season is one of them, isn't it? And obviously league position. Yeah, something like that. Looking at it now, I don't want your answers or anything, but given the opportunity, would you change any answers?
I think I would have a finish in a position or two lower. If I've put what I think I've put,
that's what I'm saying.
I would probably be it. But even then, that might be a bit of a knee-jerk thing.
Because it's so early on in the season.
It is very early on in the season. We were in the bottom half of the table at one point last season as well, with not long to go. And we still finished in the European spots, albeit because of the Man United Man City thing, didn't get through. So I would probably have it finishing, if my memory is right, a position or two lower. But that's not to say that we're not capable of, because between us and the top 5-6, Tottenham aren't doing very well. Man United are beneath us.
They're like 14th or something, yeah.
They've just sacked Ten Hag, obviously.
Who saw that coming?
Yeah. But the teams in between us and that part of the table, I don't think there's anyone there that you think, oh God, we're going to be stuck behind them all season. So I'm not too nervous that I think Europe might be a bit of a push, but then like you say, 6 points more, we're in the top 4. That rhymes. So I wouldn't make that 6 points over the course of the season, no bother. We just need Isak to stay fit, Wilson to probably get fit, start making better decisions. When players come back, see what happens in January, I think we'll be all right.
Okay. Let's go through some questions.
I might have had Isak as top scorer as well.
I think everybody probably put Isak as top goal scorer, to be fair. Barnes currently top goal scorer, any?
Yeah, I believe so, aye.
Right, let's go through some of the questions. Let's have a quick look. So the first one is from Liam. Hi, Liam, mate. He says, we've plateaued. We need to mix it up. What would you change?
Newcastle. Assists. What would you change?
Midfield.
What in midfield?
Either personnel or the way that the three is.
Does he need to be a bit more ruthless with Bruno? Because you can hear it in the terraces. A lot of people saying that Bruno needs to come off earlier than he is.
There was a point yesterday during the game where there was quite a big going about Bruno, and I watched him for 5 minutes. He was excellent. The bit of the game I saw, he was picking the ball deep, he was playing it well.
That's the issue with Bruno, that he can go through a patch in the game where he's just completely out of it, but then he comes back into it, but then he'll drop again. He's a really hard player to watch and see what's coming next with Bruno.
Yeah.
The problem with Bruno at the minute is, and we've seen it a lot from him, is he's trying too hard. He's trying to do everything himself. He needs to, like, again, when he's got Tonali, an Italian international alongside of him, AC Milan's best player last season. As good as Bruno is, when you look at kind of not last season, obviously, because he was here last season, but you know what I mean. The season after when we signed him, there's got to be more of a share of that performance in midfield, and I don't know whether it's just a trust thing from him because they don't have that relationship and connection and chemistry yet of just thinking, right, well, I don't need to do everything. I still think the captaincy's weighing too much on him because he's like almost carrying that and thinking, well, I've got this ultimate responsibility where I've got to do everything for the team. It's not just do
you think the captaincy's weighing on his shoulders a bit?
Yeah, 100%. It does. I don't think it allows him to just to play his game. I don't know where the captaincy goes other than that. Maybe share or burn.
No way. It's sticking with Bruno. No way.
In the team, because obviously I'm still firmly in the camp of taking the captaincy off Trippier as a huge mistake, and I know he hasn't played a great deal.
Do you mean to
might have
publicly take it off Trippier?
That is a huge PR issue.
Because they could have, obviously, we kind of knew at the start of the season Trips wasn't going to get much game time, we were led to believe, because Eddie Howe came out and said that Tino would be getting a lot more game time this season. Yeah. So that decision had already been made before ball had even been kicked. So I'm not sure that the decision behind it, like, rather than just saying, right, because it was similar to what we're doing with Lascelles. Lascelles kept the captaincy, but Trips was your captain. Yeah. Why did not just then move on to Bruno until Trips was getting more game time?
If anything, the one that has lost out was Byrne, because he was the vice captain, wasn't he, on the pitch?
Julian was wearing the captain's armband that week.
Yeah. I still don't get that decision.
I think it was partly to keep him happy. I do think that, yeah.
That can be the only reason, and I get that he might be a voice in the dressing room and an influence on the team, but it just doesn't seem to be working.
But having said that, Davey Eddie brings up a good point, and he says, really though, if our forwards take their chances, we would be banging it. It's not Bruno's fault they are missing the chances that we are creating.
That's kind of what I've been saying tonight as well. Yeah, I think what I'm not playing wonderfully. So I think we have been playing better this past 3-4 weeks maybe. But it's just that little bit of, is it freshness? Is it a bit of quality? I think it's quality necessary, because I think Isak he hasn't dropped off a cliff in the summer.
Far from it, no.
I think I suppose CC did. I think with Isak, he's been a little bit out of sorts, isn't he? Yeah. But the injury won't have helped him. No. But I still think that Brighton game, he was he was pretty terrible. To be honest with you.
Questionable performance.
Yeah, really like stuff that when the shot that Verbruggen saved, I think normally he puts that away. If Murphy doesn't get in the way of that one, maybe he scores, and that gives his confidence a bit of a fillip. Like it's a funny one, but yeah, I agree completely. We're not a million miles away from doing really well. We're just that. It is not. I said earlier, not putting the ball in the back of the net is a really big thing. That's why strikers cost so much money.
That's why the big
but
bucks,
that's all that would. That's
you look at the way Cole Palmer took his goal.
Yeah,
we are arguably have got strikers in better positions than where he hits that ball from, and they're not scoring. They're not hitting the target. They're putting it straight at the keeper. That is, that is a big issue. And again, it can be down to some of those things around confidence, the fact that Isak's been out of the team and stuff like that. Palmer, he's hitting everything and is going in at the minute. You have runs like that,
so.
The more you score,
could be down to the fact
gets.
that you've got Isak, who's kind of your only. Yes, I know we've got Sula, but he's only a really senior striker because Callum Wilson, we're not seeing him ever.
Yeah, and I think that's what Besty you were getting at there, like where he just didn't seem that bothered the fact that he hadn't missed or he hadn't passed it, and is the lack of weight on his shoulders of somebody breathing down his neck almost making him not having to be at his best because he's not feeling any pressure on him.
I think it's the other way around. I think he's probably feeling too much pressure that he has to perform and maybe just trying too much.
On about the not celebrating and not kind of reacting thing, I'll also remember when we beat West Ham at their place 5-1, 5-2, and he lobbed, like Fabianski kind of missed. He lobbed it, he just stood still. He's got his hand on his hips. So he's that kind of broke sometimes as well.
That's a difference. That's like Cantona at the Gallowgate end, isn't it? Or Cantona that one where he chips Lionel Perez.
Was that same like Old Trafford and something? Yeah.
So it's that kind of almost look at me,
the arrogance,
taking that the adulation. I would just say about it to Eddie. Yes, I agree that if we're strikers, take the chances, but that doesn't mean that Bruno's playing well or his performances are good. It just means that the strikers aren't.
Do you know what it is, right? Like people might listen to this and say, "Oh, I like the same that Bruno shape." Blah blah blah. We're not. We're just saying.
No, he's out of form.
Yeah,
it's just
Bruno
not working in midfield.
Such a high standard as well from previous seasons that we know what he's capable of. And I'm not saying that he was bad against Chelsea. Far from it. I don't think he was bad at all. But there's moments where you're thinking you need to do better. Like you can't switch off. You need
decision making, and as I say, not thinking I have to do everything. We've seen it, in games gone by, even like last season. Just try over trying because he's just thinking I have to do this.
Challenge comes in and win the ball and Bruno gets a free kick like towards the end of the game. Like you think, Bruno, you've been given that one.
Sometimes it's either dwelling on the ball too long, taking that extra touch, not getting the pass away, and that's where it's ultimately just coming down to some of the decisions that we're making on the pitch just aren't.
That's across the field,
right? Yeah, 100%. Like again, in the defense, the goals that were conceded, we're talking about like it's moments of individual errors or just not clicking. And you can give Eddie Howe as much stick as you want, but once those players have crossed it, he can't impact those individual decisions and individual errors. Yes, they can then. Once they come off the pitch, is they can work on the training grounds to try and cut them out, work on shape and all of that kind of thing. But it's very hard to be able to do something in that moment. The only thing that he can then do is to make changes to influence the way that we are playing and stuff like that.
I'll ask you a question before we wrap it up, right? And we'll stick with Eddie Howe. Besty, will Eddie Howe be here come end of January?
Here. In the studio.
Not in the studio.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mark?
100%.
100%?
Yeah.
100%?
Yeah.
Even if we don't win a game from now until the end of January?
I mean, that's unlikely.
Well, yeah, it was based on my answer on the fact that I think we'll turn the form around.
I mean, obviously, if we don't win a game between now and January, then it's
3 months without the win.
0%.
I'm not as confident as you. I'm not as confident. I think the skills with Eddie Howe, yes, we're thankful for everything that went before, obviously keeping us in the Premier League, getting Champions League football. But I think the scales are starting to even themselves out a little bit now. And I think that the more games we lose, it'll start going either way. I think that credit in the bank is, like I say, is probably starting to get a little bit lower for Eddie.
I just feel like Kris wants Eddie Howe out, do you?
Sounds like weird.
Sounds like that.
Definitely not, because I don't know who will replace him.
Goes Ten Hag in.
You've been very
It's
anti-
the bold brotherhood.
No, I'm just saying that. I think the scales are slowly tilting.
I think you're just being influenced by the noisy.
I'm not
element.
saying I want to. I just think that
Well, it's not what it
that
sounds like to me.
decision is going to be a hell of a lot easier now than what it was last season.
I mean, he's got two very big supporters that are now not in position
And stably married,
because me and Besty were removed
Indeed.
from our roles.
You're not getting your little secret meetings anymore.
No,
And I kept being a secret meeting for ages, unless he's just not telling me anymore, Bestie.
He's that
top
good. He's got
secret
that
now.
good at keeping it
Top
secret.
secret.
It's because me mate me dad's not there anymore to invite us. No, obviously they were big advocates for him there, so that will have an influence. But again, we know that we've got a situation that is happening with Darren Eales. We don't know what's going to,
of course,
come
Darren
there
Eales,
in that situation. With what will go on behind the scenes. Like, I've even seen things like, blaming Eddie Howe's because he's frigging nephews on the coaching.
Andy,
scouting team. Sorry, and the fact, well, it's Eddie Howe's fault that we didn't.
I think he's quite low down on the scouting network.
Apparently, it's his fault that we didn't sign anyone in the transfer window. Was multiple people saying as well.
Apparently, it was. I think a lot of people are blaming that. I think there was obviously this issue that we kept on going back for Gay rather than looking at other revenues. Eddie Howe came out in the press conference and said that yes, we could look at other players, but they're not what we need. They're not better than what we've already got. Surely there would have been players out there than that. Of course it would. I think some of it has been down at Eddie Howe's stubbornness to look overseas for players.
It's also got to be there's a value balance in it as well, isn't it?
Well, there is, but
you
was
look
Gay value? We're going to
no, and that's why we didn't sign him.
But what 80 mil? I think that was overvalued as well. I know there's no such thing as overvaluing a player when a club is selling them, but
I think that depends on which report you read as to whether that figure was accurate or not, because there's been a lot of variances between what was stated as where what we were offering versus what the bids actually were and stuff like that. So there's money there. We know there's money there for the right players. My issue is do we find ourselves, because we've got no money going out, as Besty said, we haven't been able to sell players, we haven't been able to shift them out. We sold Maxi to clear one lot of books. We've had to get rid of Anderson and Minty to balance that. We're going to be in exactly the same situation.
As a Minty, I can think about the fellow of current EastEnders. Little ball getting pumped.
But I think the worrying thing, right? We're talking about. We could go on forever. Yeah, we're talking about Anderson and Minty being sold.
But let's forget. Just set me off on another rant.
Let's forget. Hang on.
I've seen people complaining that we sold Chris Wood a season and a half ago because he suddenly came into a bit of form.
Well,
how weird, man.
In hindsight.
Hindsight is a wonderful thing. 18 months down the line.
We're sat talking about a game against Chelsea. That's hindsight now. Like we're allowed to talk about these things.
18 months later.
Yeah, of course you are. You're still talking about Maxi.
Jesus, we should never have bloody sold Les Ferdinand in 1997.
Well, I don't think Les Ferdinand will do a job for
now. I mean, I agree with that, but that's another story.
But right now, if you're given a choice now, right now, Callum Wilson or Chris Wood,
and he's best
for the rest of the season. Who are you picking for the rest of the season?
Andy Besty. All right, yes, I have a one now.
Who are you picking? Wood or Wilson?
We're going to pick Wood because he's fit, he's reliable, he's available.
Exactly.
But then that
means then you haven't had Callum Wilson's goals in the last 18 months.
He's not been playing.
Of course he played.
But by the same mark, you could also say about what about
he missed 60% of last season.
It's like when people say we shouldn't have sold Ivan Toney. Ivan Toney wouldn't be doing what he's done if we had kept him. If he wouldn't have gone to Northampton. Was it Peterborough went over a bit? And it wouldn't have been that way, Brentford. It wouldn't have been that way, so there's no point in kind of speculating. Chris Wood was...
wanted Riviere back before bloody Chris Wood, man.
When we got rid of Chris Wood, when it was sold him, I think everyone was like, fair enough, that's all right.
No,
the money we got for him as well. Like, it was right. I'm glad he's doing well. Like, I think he's a good striker.
I liked him, yeah.
But what I've been wondering, sitting here the last 5 minutes waiting for Mark to shut up, was...
makes a change.
Was... the 3 PSR's a 3-year rolling thing, right?
Yeah.
The first window when I've mentioned earlier that
Isak,
Bruno, that was 3 years ago. This winter window. So does that drop off before the window or after?
No, mate.
What's it?
Know.
because it's
it'll be rolling
first
for a year from
season.
that window. Yeah.
So like, if we like,
So that's why I'm saying this summer we're going to be in exactly the same situation. Unless we have a
I like how
shitload.
we're both
Well, I mean,
sat
we will
with your
have
hands like this.
we will have a lot of money come in because we've got the Champions League, we've got the new
yeah, but
sponsorship stuff and all
that
kind
stuff,
of thing.
it's about profit and loss.
Is there enough money to fill that gap?
Those losses from the money that was spent in that January comes off the record afterwards. So we should theoretically. So we signed Trippier quite early in that window. Does that mean so if we sign him on January the 10th, does that mean on January 11th this time round?
No, because it's the end of season.
Is it the accounting periods?
The season.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. And you've got to remember when we first signed Isak, I think the club came out and said that we've had to spend more than we should have, and it's going to impact us for the next couple of windows
Gordon
as well.
Was the same one. We got him. That was a bit of a
but
that was 100 million for those two, wasn't it? So
yeah.
But then that was a huge outlay. Was that 200 million the first window?
Mm-hmm.
Am I right in thinking that?
It was ridiculous. It was something.
It was a lot of money. But that's the base that we're coming from, and now we're talking about like the comparative qualities of Newcastle and the teams, like we mentioned Chelsea and Brighton earlier. Well, I think Dan Burn was whatever he cost, 12-13 million pounds, and now he's one of the players that would think, we need to replace him because he's a few years older. Because he's
going to be a big jump to replace now.
Not that big, 'cause he's 6'7" or something. Like that, so.
That's it. The only one you've done tonight.
It isn't all high. I've been waiting though. It was good. But yeah, we're getting a point. Trippier need to replace him because he's still, I suppose you could say that. But then with strength and depth, I don't think Harrison Ashby's the answer. Do you keep Kraft or sell him, or do you have Tino and who's covered right back after Tino?
Kraft.
You've got
it is just Kraft. So then it's well looking light there all of a sudden, because Trippier, I think it's really.
You can even throw it up top when you look at Callum Wilson, because Asula isn't the replacement for Callum Wilson. I think we can all agree on that.
Not yet. Maybe in time.
Maybe in time, but you're probably going to have to look at that avenue as well.
I think there's a striker there,
Well, there might well be.
I think
I think so as well, but I don't think he's going to be. If it come January, Wilson's fit and Asula's fit, you're not going to be going like.
Does he play against Chelsea then on Wednesday night?
Asula.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't, just in the interest of getting Isak back up to speed.
Do you think Chelsea play a weekend squad? Well, I'm saying weekend squad, but not obviously the starting 11 which we faced
at the weekend.
So,
I don't think I probably wouldn't see like Cole Palmer start. Maybe he's not Neto, maybe he's not Madaway.
Do you think we go the same route, or do you think we go?
I think we
start 11,
a rotated squad.
Okay.
Even when they played, because did they not play Man United in the last round?
I can't remember.
Was that round?
I've got no idea.
Where it was like 3-4-3 or something like that. That mad game.
I don't know, Mark.
No idea. Moving on.
Sure, it was a Carabao Cup.
Doesn't matter.
Don't know, Mark.
Doesn't matter. Not our problem.
No, I
was just thinking that team would have been was very different to what they played at the weekend.
Done well, haven't they, Chelsea? Maresca's done a really good job there.
I mean,
they were up and down for a long time. Obviously, last season, Pochettino got sacked quite harshly, I thought, after the way they finished the season. But they're looking good this season, looking really good.
The players that were, poor for them, like Jackson. I know he had injury issues, but when he was playing, he wasn't.
His finishing was terrible.
He seems to have came into a bit of form. Like Palmer is. Like everything he touches at the minute.
Midas
does. I remember watching the
ugly little rat. Like he's a horrible individual.
I was talking to someone.
I don't mind him,
Talking to someone this today. I think he's.
Do you not see him at full time?
What
with the away fans?
What was he doing like?
Giving it the big one.
That was one of our players who would fucking love it. It doesn't bother us.
You wouldn't, man.
Yes, we would.
Why do you want them?
We would.
I couldn't care less.
Like we would.
He's a knob.
If Bruno, if we had a win and Bruno starts doing that in front of their fans, you're fucking lapping that up.
We're all very happy watching the lads getting their photo taken in front of the
stadium light. Yeah,
the stadium light.
In front of our fans. They weren't doing it at the full well end. Is that even a thing? Not the full well end, but you know what I mean.
It's always full. That. It's always full.
Full of what?
But I still think during that game, I wasn't at the Sunderland game earlier in the year, but I'm assuming that there'd have been a point where Anthony Gordon's had a bit of a smile.
Yeah.
He did it at Goodison last season. Gordon, we were singing he only left because he had shite or something like that, and he's laughing and nodding. And it's like, well, it's the same kind of thing, really. It doesn't bother us. You see Jamie Vardy do it all the time. It's a Kris.
He's a tit, exactly.
He's the one that is a tit. Yeah. I hear when Vardy does it.
I love it.
He was doing it to the disabled section at Southampton last weekend.
Jamie Vardy is a tit.
Running up to the wheelchairs and pointing at them and laughing. I mean, how weird.
You think he's laughing at the fact that they're disabled, or just laughing at the fact?
I would hope it wasn't the former.
So why should the disabled section be treated any differently?
Why should 40
They're
not do
remain
that?
Well, I mean, fine. That's absolutely fine for him to do that, then, isn't it?
I mean, our disabled section's on level 7, so
It's actually in the front there.
I know it is, but it's still it's mad how it's like up steps.
Right, come on. Let's call it a night. We've been going for an hour and 10 minutes. Thanks everybody who has joined us this evening. If you're listening back as well, it means a lot to us as well. Bestie doesn't care about this next bit, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Like the video means a lot to us, apart from Bestie. He hates it.
I care
you
very
can dislike it if you want.
I care very passionately.
Do you?
Yes, I
All right.
always like him.
Change of tune.
I always like him.
Do you actually like the videos?
Yeah,
Do you?
All
right, okay.
Doesn't he watch them? So how can he like? Did he just go on and like them and not bother watching them?
Yes.
Fair enough.
Well, he's not going to watch something that he's already been in.
I don't particularly like looking at myself or the sound of my own voice. So, like, why would I watch him? No. Is that why I've moved us over here? Nice.
Took you over there, and it's even worse than what you're over here.
Imagine if this was a boat. It'd be
You're
like
gonna
that.
have to look at him.
Be like
Or an
Shadow
airplane.
Howe.
Like an airplane that's going around in circles.
You ever been on an airplane where they make you change seats?
No.
Even it out?
No.
Well, that's worrying.
We were on a flight together when that happened.
Well, what did that
Yeah.
happen on that
I
flight?
had to move.
You had to move.
Just get you to lie down in the middle.
It's 'cause I thought
No,
two,
we like, we moved
two boiled eggs on the
like
front of
one
the
side,
plane.
the other one.
Thanks everybody. Just like the video, become a subscriber, become a member if you want to. Just $2.99 a month. We'll see you next time. Watch what you're doing. Ta-ra.